Dealers are charging thousands of dollars over a sticker. Don't let this happen. I won't. Let's go. I mean, I'm browsing around here and I see all kinds of different things. Obviously, a lot of dealers seem to be charging way more than the sticker of the value of the vehicle. It's no secret. It's been happening for a little while now. I've got some examples. Last year, I was looking for a Toyota Camry. We thought, hey, we'll buy a used one for my daughter. And then we went out shopping for used ones. Now we're looking at 5-6-year-old cars, 140,000 kilometers, accident history, and they still wanted $30,000 Canadian for this old piece of junk with stories. So we decided, after about 2 months of searching, we decided just to go in, and we said, the heck with it, we'll buy a new one. So we went in, priced out a brand new one, loaded better than the ones that we were looking at, because we ended up buying an SE all-wheel drive, so spec up, has some of the other features and the latest and the greatest tech. And that car there, actually, we ended up getting for $37,000, plus applicable taxes, about $9,000 more than the average piece of trash that was out there. So there's lots of junk stuff hitting the market. And, as we look here, there's no secret. We walked through this, we've seen these trucks here before. We know that there's a lot of markups going on with a lot of these vehicles. Dealers sort of take that and add on some extra pricing there wherever they seem to want to, and it always seems to be a little bit of a negotiation tactic. But how do you actually get a sticker price for a vehicle, MSRP? I mean, I'll give you another example. The other day, I was looking at a Chevy Corvette. I opened up the Auto Trader and I had a look around, and basically everything that was from 2020, because I was looking at the C8s and the C8 Corvettes. Anywhere, the cheapest one I could find in Edmonton area was about $100,000. That was the cheapest used one. So 2020, then there's obviously, it's already 4 years old. And the cheapest one I could find was $100,000. That was base model, no wing, no specs, no nothing. It was the chinless version, didn't have a lot of features going to it. So we had looked around for that. I checked around, went dealer searching and hopping, found all kinds of different variations from 2021s to 2022s and 3s, and used cars. I'm talking cars with 10, 15, 20,000, in some cases 30,000 or more kilometers on the clock. And I even stumbled across a couple with Carfax, like black stains on them. In other words, like they had accident history. So what I was finding is the average 2LT in Edmonton, say a 2021, with about 15,000 kilometers on it, these guys are still asking $130,000, $125,000, $130,000. I found a few that were down around $110,000, $115,000. Sure, you can get them into that price range, but these are used cars, and I thought to myself, that doesn't make much sense. So I literally walked into the dealer, went into the Chevy dealer, one of the dealers here locally, and I decided, you know what? Why don't I just price this out? Walked into the dealer, they had a brand new Stingray. It was a 2LT, spec'd up pretty nice. They put a set of nice aftermarket wheels. It was this nice kind of light blue, it had yellow calipers, really nice looking unit. So I walked up and I said, well, how much for that car? There's no stickers on it. In the showroom, these people did not put stickers on the car. He told me immediately $140,000. I'm like, what? I said to the guy, look, I know a Z06 is speccing, or you can get a brand new Z06 if you order it online for $130,000. So I said, how does a $5,000 set of rims and tires all of a sudden make the car worth $140,000 for Stingray? So then I walked over and they actually had a Z06. It looked like a medium spec. It didn't have carbon fiber wing. It had somewhere probably in the middle of what I consider specifications and features. And I said, how much for that Z06? $300,000. I'm like, okay, so clearly things are just getting out of control. I don't want to pay that kind of money. I don't think it's value added to pay that kind of money. So I learned a few things, and I did some research, and obviously there's some tips that I'm going to share with you, because I have to share you what I learned from this experience. And that's, why are we getting ripped off like this? Why is the market doing what it's doing? And clearly, I'm seeing the same thing going on with the Ford Bronco and any other popular models that are just coming out. So what I will say, with the Corvette, so I went online, and I literally went on Canada.ca or the Corvette.ca website, and I started build your own, and I did all of that. And I found that I was able to build the exact same specifications. So that blue Stingray that I saw was spec'd for $140,000. I took the whole build sheet. I took that build sheet and built it online and they basically told me the subtotal before GST, which all you do is add another 5% on it here in Alberta. We don't have to add a whole lot of other taxes to it. And the build sheet literally transferred over, told me that I should be paying $110,000 for that Corvette. And they were asking $140,000. Now, I'm good with profits and, you know, dealers making some profit. That's the business they're in. But this is getting out of hand. Like literally this is getting ridiculous. So $140,000 for a car that's worth $110,000. What is that? A market adjustment of 30 grand. I mean, even vehicles like this, $76,000. I mean, we know that that's sticker. Okay, they load these up. We've got sticker price here, and I don't see anything on this vehicle here for market adjustment. So I got to believe this dealer's playing a straight up game. They're not charging a whole lot extra. I mean, they'll probably try to get you on the extras like floor mats and paint protection film and those types of things. But really, for the most part, what I'm seeing here is, you know, you got the stickers and you have nothing here noting, you know, market adjustment fees. So Ford seems to be doing something legit. It's not too big of a deal here. However, that's the F-150s, the F-250s, and so on. But I will say, what I've seen with the Broncos is a whole nother conversation. And people actually paying $10,000 more, $10,000, $15,000 more to get that Bronco. And there's a few reasons for that. And people are paying it. That's the worst part. People are paying to get that vehicle in their possession. But let's take a look here and try to understand why the Broncos are so much here. But let's take a look here. We have a couple Broncos here on this car lot and see if there's any stickers on there or any indication. I mean, I look at all these trucks and they all have window stickers on them, and pretty much all of them have that. But then I look over here. Okay, so what do we have here? We actually have a window sticker. It says $84,000, 575 bucks. So, you know, this one looks like 2.7 EcoBoost. So there you go. That's the better engine for sure. Although they're having those issues with dropping valves. But beyond that, that's the engine you probably want to have. And they're asking $85,000 for this vehicle. Now, I don't know if there's any addendums here. I don't see anything. But without them, you know, taking the sitting down with the general manager or the sales guys, it would be hard to say for sure what they're actually charging for. But anyway, here we go. We'll circle around and we'll see what this one here. There's another one. And let's just see. What is this one? $88,000. Wow. It's not cheap. This one here is Outer Banks right there. But I don't see any other paperwork on here to imply that they're adding any market adjustment to these vehicles. Now, they're popular, they look great, and quite frankly, I'd rather have one of these than a Jeep. Now look at this one. Look, this has these types of guards on it, and this one has the painted. I would say this one definitely looks beefier. The blue is a nice look for sure. In the Wild Track right here, beautiful unit. But people are paying way too much. Generally speaking, if you want to get one of these, people are paying over $10,000 or $15,000 over MSRP, which I still don't understand how that works. Well, I know how it works. A big part of it was the shortages that we saw during the last 2 years. Then we popped out of that, and then what's happened is another situation. It's a popular new model, people just want to get their hands on one, and so then that takes us to a place where all of a sudden they start charging more because it's like first come, first serve, and hey, if you don't want it, the customer behind you wants it, and that's kind of basically treatment I got. That's kind of the treatment I got when I was asking about the Corvette and the Z06. They're charging 300 grand for the Z06. When I say it's 130 if I order it from online, I just have to wait a year. Okay. See, that's the thing. The Camry that I spoke of, we ordered it. All we had to do was wait for 3 months and we had a brand new Camry in our hands. Otherwise, you can pay way more for this used stuff. You know, these Corvettes, for example, you're paying $20,000, $30,000 over a brand new sticker for a used one that's maybe got some history to it. So the question it becomes, you know, can you wait? Can you wait 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year? Some of these models you have to wait for, absolutely. And that's kind of what I'm seeing here. You have to just kind of wait. You have to wait it out. And I mean, there's certain models you can walk in and pick them up. But if you want some of the popular stuff, clearly you're gonna have to wait. Now, we also notice that, you know, the Ford, Stellantis, GM products, trucks, there's lots of them on the lots right now because I've spoke about this in other videos. So those ones you have options, but if you want to get into the unique specialized type vehicles, you're going to probably either pay the piper now and pay at a premium, or just have to wait it out for 6 months or a year. Anyway, moving on. So as we walk here, why are the Broncos so popular? Well, they're customizable. Obviously it's an off-roader, you can put lift kits on them, bigger boots. They're just that type of vehicle that a lot of people often customize them, so they're popular for that. Also, there's been a ton of hype for a long time now. You know, you get the Sport, which is based on the Ford Escape, not a great version, but the full-size Bronco here with the V6, it's a great unit. But there's been a lot of hype, a lot of build up to this, because I know even friends that have bought, you know, older used Broncos, and they paid a premium dollars for the older ones that have been more or less restored. But that's just the way it is right now. If you want to get either an old one, you can pay 100 grand plus for an old Bronco that's restored. You can get one of these brand new ones like this, and you know, you just got to pay the piper. So this is what's happening. So there's a lot of hype, customization, their style. They're very cool, because honestly there's not much out there like that, and I think they're even cooler looking than a Jeep Wrangler. I mean, you do have, you know, some really outlandish basic back down to the 70s style here. They look wider than a Jeep, they look beefier than a Jeep, and honestly Jeeps are getting a little tiresome. But you know, even this is just kind of a unique look here. Cool stuff. Like, this is all great stuff. I love these handles like this. Lots of decals on there. It's great. Look at this Bronco. Even right on there it says Bronco. Lots of great detail on here. Sure, you get the sunroof on there, or essentially the rollback roof. Very cool all the way around. This vehicle has a lot of cool styling elements that's drawn people in, right? You get the little horsies like that. You get all kinds of cool features. Upgraded wheels with the horsey there. Lots of cool elements. Look at that. Great parts there. And you know, even the interior looks quite unique. So it's not something you find anywhere else on mainstream. So they've just had so many cool things going for them that they've just drawn a crowd, and honestly, that's just kind of where it's at. But so when I look at these great vehicles, if I want to get a deal, I've got, you know, a few great tips. I don't know, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 tips. I don't know, you name it. But I've got some cool tips that are going to save you, because they saved me a lot of money on the Camry. They would save me on the Corvette if I decide to pull the trigger on that. And I've been looking at that. And clearly, if I was to buy a Corvette, don't be jumping to the pump. Take your time, shop around, and even better, go online, price out piecemeal the car that you want, and then go into the dealership and then have that conversation. But at the end of the day, there's a few key ways that you can save a ton of money, and you can end up with the vehicle you want without overpaying. But there's a few features. Number one, of course, is be patient. And I said, you know, be patient with this. Don't be in a rush. Just don't be, you know, Jojo the circus boy and kind of running off and grabbing that next shiny toy, because grabbing that shiny toy is probably going to get you the worst deal you'll ever imagine. You'll end up paying more than, you know, way more than you probably should. And there's no point in that. So don't bother. Honestly, just don't bother hurrying with any of this. As I said, I went and shopped around for some used ones. I took a couple for a drive, looked around. And then when you start asking the questions about Carfax and accident history, miles and all that, then you start flushing out the details, and then just settle down, be patient. So that's the one thing that I found. Same thing with the Camry. We were patient in waiting. So we said, okay, we'll wait. We'll order it. We're okay. We'll find another means of transportation. We had an extra vehicle. So we said, the hell with it. We'll wait 4 months or 6 months for that Camry. And that way we're not going to overpay for those types of cars. And definitely put yourself in a position where you're not desperate. So be patient. And that's another critical tip that I can suggest. Looking at these, obviously, you know, here, it's nice to have the sticker, walk up, grab your price, move on. Yeah, if you have that available, and that's okay for these lots like this. But as I said, you know, a lot of the dealers aren't posting that. And in Canada, you don't need the Monroney sticker. Although I see a lot of it here on the domestic products, you don't see a lot of them on the imports. Go find BMW, Audi, and you don't find those stickers on the vehicle. In the US, it's law. In Canada, it's not. So if you don't have that sticker available to you, there's a good chance you may overpay. So anyway, don't overpay. Make sure you know what the sticker is for those. Do your shopping, do your looking around for that vehicle. Anyway, so that's one element that you have to be a patient for. Another piece you got to remember is the dealer, and the dealer you're shopping at is super important. For example, you go one of those mega dealers, like this is a smaller scale dealer here, so you might actually have a better bargaining point. If you go one of those mega dealers where they got like 100 of everything, there's either one of two things can happen. Either A, they're going volume and they're just going to sell and blow them out the door and just looking for the volumes game, or B, we know it's not happening right now. They're not about volumes. Every manufacturer is trying to get every margin out of every vehicle and transaction they can. It just means they're less sticky. They probably don't care if they lose one or two customers that are being nitpicky and squawky. So instead, they probably just, they'd be more inclined to not negotiate. What you want to do is find a dealer that's maybe a little bit more hungry, maybe a little less inventory, maybe dealers that treat you more respectfully. That's a big one, because you walk into the shop and all of a sudden you get that, you feel like you're getting greased. That is a sure sign that there's probably something else behind that. So definitely pick the right dealer who wants to talk to you person to person and you don't feel like you're getting ripped off. So that's super important. Get in there to a dealer that looks like they're selling cars, but maybe you have friends that have bought at a dealer and they didn't feel like they were ripped off, and maybe you've had other people buy from a particular dealer. Maybe it's repeat business. That's a thing. So maybe something to think about. So the other thing I want to mention is the time of the year, the time of the month. It's always about the time of the month now, isn't it? But the one thing I will say, when you're shopping for beautiful new vehicles like this, make sure you're picking the right time of the day and the year and the month and the cycle of that vehicle too. So first of all, what I want to say is the cycle, right? It's like the Broncos, as I just said. You're looking at the Broncos. Do you want to buy that first off the assembly line and be the first person to have that new iPhone 28? Because you're going to pay for that. So do you want to be that first person? If you have to have that, like if you really need it and you want to be that person to bragging rights, say go right ahead, but that comes at a cost. Personally, I would wait 2 or 3 years in the cycle. Number one, you're not going to pay through the nose and you're not going to get ripped off. And this is the way I literally live by these rules, like literally live by these rules. I never buy the first year because you're going to overpay just because it's a popular new model. And also, usually bugs for the first 2 or 3 years, the biggest bugs, the biggest issues. We also notice that some of these, here's the Sport. That's kind of more of an escape or escape, if you will. But over here, the full size with that 2.7, we know they've been dropping valves. We know that there's certain years of that, but they're going to learn where all the problem areas are and it's flushing out. So it's learning what's those nuances and making sure that you're not buying a car with all that trouble. So get into a 3rd or 4th year in the cycle. That way, it's not the hottest thing anymore. You're not going to probably have all the issues that the first generation or the first model year had. And honestly, you're going to avoid some of that and you'll have better bargaining power. The other thing is the time of the month. Usually the end of the month is better. It's not always that way, but often the end of the month when they're trying to hustle or make their numbers, and it just depends on the vehicle. Not all vehicles will give you that flexibility, but if you're at the end of the month and you're trying to get that deal, that's probably the best time. Walk in certain times of the day when they're not so busy and you can sit and the salesmen are looking around. It's a good time to buy when, and I've had this experience. I drive into a car lot, like I drive in and all of a sudden there's about 3 salesmen all spin their head and they're looking at me and they're all like this, whoa. And there's 3 salesmen looking and I haven't even put my car or my truck in park yet and they're already walking to my truck. So when they're doing that, they're hungry. If they're hiding in the showroom and they're not coming out to see you and you're chasing them down, your bargaining power is not quite as strong. We know that. I think that's a given. So look for those times when the dealers, there's a general feel that they're hungrier. Like I said, end of the month often pays off better. Also when things are quieter, mid-morning, just do drive-bys. And like I said, if they're not a hustle bustle, then that might be a good time to do it. Also the end of the year. And the reason I say that, because usually the next model year is coming out. So as we get here, we're in 2023 model years right now. You probably want to look at getting that deal. What ends up happening is 24s they're popping up. They're going to start showing up here right away. These are all 23 model years and they can't get rid of these. So Ford, Stellantis, Dodge, Ram, you name it, Jeep, Chevy, GM, they're all struggling right now because they're trying to get rid of this product, but they're also anticipating the potential UAW strike, so that's putting them in a place. Why they're stocking up, they're trying to be prepared to have more days inventory on the lot, but that's besides the point. The thing I'm trying to say is, end of the month is likely the best time. End of the year is likely the best time because they're going to flip the calendar year, start bringing in the next model years. What they don't want to have is a bunch of 23s sitting here on January 15th of 24 and then having like, how do we sell that? Now they have to incentivize that. Boom, you get it, right? You see the game that I'm playing here now? Now that's the one you want to buy. You want to buy that kind of as you flip the calendar year. There's a downside, of course, it's a model year later, but it really isn't until you register it. So really it's more about the registration date, but you can get yourself a smoking deal with incentives, better interest rates, often throwing in widgets and gadgets and tires and packages and protection, and just don't walk away and pay all that extra. Trust me, if you're in a position where you're working on last year's model and you're already kind of getting close to the end of the year, don't take no, because they're going to try to push and give you nothing and hold and do all those things. That's their game. They're trained for that. But let me tell you, don't play that game. Be honest. I'm going to tell you, if you get to the end of the year, that's the time you want to do it. And you want to make sure that you're negotiating all those extras and add-ons and get as much out of the deal as you can. And that is the bargaining power. You come at it from a perspective, this truck or this car or this SUV is already a year old. And you know what? They can try to push back on that. But that's where it comes now, where we talk about know the dealers. So now if they're greasy, they'll keep playing games. If they're a legitimate dealer and they want to sit down and work with you, absolutely work with them. You might find a good dealer, work with those guys and gals. So that's what I'm saying. Just find the time of the day and the month and the year, and that's going to get you a much better deal. Well, honestly, folks, I've learned some of these tips myself. I've been in the car business a lot of years myself, in and out and all around. I've worked for Toyota dealers. I've worked for a dealership auction house called Alberta Auto Auction. I've spent a lot of time flipping cars, dealing cars, fixing cars. I've lived in the car world. I know lots of people in the biz and GMs, and I'm buddies with a lot of people in the business. I just know how this all works. So trust me when I say these basic tips are going to save you a little bit of extra cash, especially in a time right now where a lot of these dealers are just hungry and they're trying to scavenge. So as far as that goes, be sure right there, click that video. That's going to help you understand why this is not the time to buy that truck or car or SUV. Right there, check it out. You're going to love it. And as well, don't forget to subscribe. I really do need some extra support. Starting out slowly, we're building, and I'm literally going to be the angel over your left shoulder telling you about the right way and the wrong way to buy your next car. Hope to see you all in the next one. See you then. Bye-bye. Dealers are charging thousands of dollars.